Welcome to the Popcorn Wine Down with Tammy and Eddie. Grab your popcorn, get yourself a glass of wine, and come hang out with us as we discuss TV shows, movies, music, and pop culture.
Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of the Popcorn Wine Down. I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy.
Thank you for joining us this week. We will be talking about Emily in Paris. But first, let's get to the wine down. And Tammy, there seems to be some drama brewing from one of our favorite old school shows, and that is Charmed. The OG Charmed cast, they seem to be beefing with the new school Charmed cast, and it's just a big uncharming mess.
I love that. That's cute. That was cute. Yeah, like I read a couple articles of it, and I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of the new Charmed. I was a huge fan of the old Charmed. I kind of fell off on watching the new Charmed, but I don't understand. I don't know where the drama really is. Is it that they called them out on how horrible their show is, or like where did this come from?
Well, it started with Rose McGowan, who is a whole nother subject story in and of itself. Mm-hmm. You know, sometimes Rose be hitting it on the head, and then other times it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? But it started with her posting something, or Holly Marie Combs retweeting or reposting something of Rose McGowan saying that the show sucked. But here's the thing. Rose McGowan also claims that she's never watched the new show. So that, to me, kind of invalidates everything that you have to say. And I know the ladies, the old school cast, the original cast, they were upset initially because when a reboot was announced, everyone thought, oh, they're going to invite the Howell sisters back. They're going to reboot it with them. And then I guess, and I don't know if that was ever the original plan or not, but they were upset that they did not have, they weren't invited back to do the new version, or that they don't really have anything to do with the new version, I guess. So they've never really been big fans of it from the beginning, even before it aired, even before it was cast. Just when it was announced that they were going in a completely different direction, the original cast, they were all out against it. So I like the new Charmed. It's okay. It grew on me. The first season, I was like, okay, it was finding its wings and trying to really identify itself or distinguish itself from the original Charmed, and I think it's doing that. Is it as good as the original? No, but again, I'm at the point where, because it's two different casts telling two different stories, I can't really compare them. I stopped comparing them. I'm just taking it for what it is.
And that's a really good way to look at it. I think that majority of the people, when it first premiered, there was definitely some comparisons between the old Charmed and the new Charmed. And I was one of those people. But I also, like, in the article, I read on how, what's the new girl name?
Sarah Jeffrey.
Touche. So on Sarah Jeffries, kind of making it seem like Holly Marie Combs was coming after them because it was a cast of women of color. But when I read her comments, I didn't get that feeling like she was coming after them because they were women of color. She was coming after the show, and she was making her opinion known on the show, and it had nothing to do with their race whatsoever. But her response kind of made it seem like, oh, it had something to do with their race. And I'm just like, I didn't get that from the comments that Holly Marie Combs made.
I didn't either. I think what I got from it is that she was more upset with the powers that be, so to speak, no pun intended. But she was upset with the network and maybe the production company, like the Spelling family, or whoever's in charge of his production, because they owned the rights. Since Aaron Spelling created the show, the CW would have had to go to his family or his company to get the rights in order to reboot the show. So all those decisions were above the cast's head. So I think, But again, I'm also I kind of agree with Sarah Jeffrey from the point is if you don't have anything positive to say, then just don't say anything at all. If you've never watched the show, then how can you say it sucks? I get that you're upset about the way it went down, but really, what does that have to do with the new cast? So, like I said, it's
But you
just
said
a
it was
big.
Rose who said that it sucked, right? Or did Holly Marie Combs also say that?
She basically should have said it. She co-signed on what Rose McGowan said by retweeting it out, or reposting it. So that was pretty much.
She watched it herself and realized she didn't like it.
And that's one thing, and that's great. You can do that, but knowing it's kind of like I agree. If you don't have anything positive to say, then don't say anything at all. And why let this mess fester for like 2 days before you come out with the clarification? So. I'm not taking sides in any of it. I just think it's an uncharming it's a mess, and I hope that they can figure it out. Now, in great news, Coming to America, one of my favorite all-time movies. It ranks up there.
Mine too.
I quote this movie. I love this movie. It was supposed to be released around Christmas time in the theaters through Paramount Studios, but say it with me, fucking Rona. She messed some shit up again.
Fucking Rona.
But Amazon went big for this movie. They went hard for this movie. They paid $125 million to acquire this movie. Now, we know Jeff Bezos makes $125 million in 5 minutes.
He does.
But, so the movie is going to be released on Christmas Day, and I'm looking forward to it. I've already added to my list. It's probably going to be my Christmas Day movie. But this is one of those movies that I watched, and it's ingrained in my memory. Like, Remember the Titans and Bad Boys? I have this movie memorized. And my favorite scene is when they're at the talent show and the band Sexual Chocolate. And I have a little...
Yes!
I have
and
to
he stopped his feet on the stage. Sexual Chocolate! Sexual chocolate.
And featuring the original mic drop. But I have a little band of figurines, and I named them Sexual Chocolate. And when they were out on display, people would come by and be like, I was like, yeah, let's give it up for the band. And I made them a little placard, and they were like, you did not name that band Sexual Chocolate. And I did, so yeah.
And to after that scene, it had me cracking up. But at the end, when one of the old dudes was just like, that boy is good.
Yeah. And no one's like good and bad. But yeah, I love that movie. So if you have not seen the original, I highly suggest you watch the original before Christmas Day. And go back and check out Coming to America too. So I'm excited. Although I haven't seen, they've done a great job of keeping this movie under wraps. I haven't seen any spoilers. There haven't been any trailers.
Yeah.
There haven't been any trailers or anything released. So I'm really looking forward to that. Also in possible delay news, Tammy, I'm going to break your heart here. Wonder Woman is more than likely going to be pushed back from its December or Christmas time release.
Yeah, I am. You know me. And for anyone that does not know, I am a huge, gigantic Wonder Woman fan. Just a huge Wonder Woman fan. I have a wall dedicated to her in my home. So, huge Wonder Woman fan. But I'm okay with that. I want them to wait as long as it takes for this fucking Rona to get over so that I can go to the theater and actually watch Wonder Woman, because she needs a theater experience. Don't be trying to put her on no TV. I don't want her on no streaming service. You better give her the full red carpet treatment. All right, I'll wait as long as it takes.
All right, so I agree. That is a movie that I am really looking forward to in the theater, because I'm not paying $30. Thank you, Milan, to see Wonder Woman.
Thank you, Milan, for showing us that we are not doing that again.
So, I'll wait too. But in other Wonder Woman adjacent news, the director Patty Jenkins and the star Gal Gadot, they have been attached to the Cleopatra project. Jenkins is going to direct, and hold it, Gadot is going to star. Okay, it's all yours.
I love it, how you set that up. yeah, you know me. I am not about that casting, and I am a huge Gal Gadot fan. I've been a fan of her since I watched her in the Fast and the Furious series. I was excited when she was cast as Wonder Woman, but I am not for her as Cleopatra. Cleopatra is a woman of color, and please do not tell me, okay, I know she's Israeli, I get it, but she's not. It just does not flow for me. Like, Cleopatra was in, what was it, Northern Africa?
She was in Egypt.
Northern Africa, come on. Can't you cast an actual woman of color with some tone?
Some melanin? Some natural melanin?
Some melanin where she can handle the real hot sun? Like,
well, people were saying, when I was reading about the casting just to see what people were saying, and it was a lot of people who felt the same way. And there were some who were like, well, she's from Greece, and they were trying to make the excuses, but and Angelina Jolie was attached to a project. I don't know if it's the same one, but she was attached to a Cleopatra project forever. And as beloved as beloved as she is, she caught a lot of backlash for this too. And especially in this day and age, my problem with this is we deserve to have our stories told by our people.
Yes.
And I'm not saying it has to be that from head to toe. I'm not against Jenkins directing, but that was one of the big things about Cleopatra, even before it got to this year and we got to this climate and we're starting to turn this corner. The thing about Angelina Jolie is she's not a woman of color. So that is where I stand with this. So if Gal Gadot is your casting choice, this is all I'm going to say. I better not see not 1 inch, 1 shade, 1 speck of color darkening, skin darkening makeup.
Not a lick of it.
Let her play this version of Cleopatra as she is. I don't want to see anything on her that's going to darken her skin, period. Point blank. That's where I'm at. If that's your choice, then you go with this choice, because you're saying you think she's the perfect woman to play this part as is. So let her play it as is.
But can we get for the supporting cast? Can we get some people of color in there though? Since you're making the star, Gal Gadot, I'm gonna need some people of color to be in the supporting cast, please.
Well, you had a bunch of Amazonian women, and one of those warriors was black in Wonder Woman. So we'll see. I'm just gonna leave. I'm gonna leave it there. That's where I'm leaving that. But speaking of DC, Michael B. Jordan is going to produce a comic, a superhero movie called Static Shock for DC. And if you're like me, you've never heard of Static Shock. I don't read a lot of the comics, although I keep saying I'm going to get into more comic books and graphic novels. But Static Shock is one of their newer characters from 1990s. He was created in 1993. And a lot of people are saying that this, along with Wonder Woman and not Superman, but Aquaman, this might be what DC actually needs, is them telling stories of lesser known heroes, especially since they keep fucking up Batman and Superman. And that last part was me. That was all me. But they do keep messing those up. And until they give them a proper reboot and just quit picking big name actors to pick up where Christian Bale left off as far as Batman's concerned, and do whatever the hell they're trying to do with Superman, until you actually reboot those stories and tell them from the beginning with a new actor, then they're never going to work.
I agree. I think that they need to, and we've talked about this, on kind of put Batman and Superman to the side. I understand that they are supposed to be like the stars, right? Because they're like frenemies. They've always been frenemies. And you want it to be on the level of the Dark Knight, but it's not happening. It's not happening. So they need to be a concentration on the lesser characters. They did a great job when they came out with Wonder Woman, because of course Wonder Woman has to come and save DC once again when she premieres in theater, because of the last movies that they put out. But Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and these lesser known characters, especially of the Justice League, that's what they should focus on, rather than Batman and Superman. Put that to the side for right now. Have them come in for the full cast movies before you give them another feature. That's how I feel. Before you give them another feature, put them in another Justice League. Let's see how that goes before you jack them up again.
And that's all the advice we're giving you for free today, DC. But if you want more, please reach out to us. Okay, you don't have to pay us though. But hey, we have plenty of advice to give. Speaking of theaters, AMC, it was announced this week that they probably have enough money to maybe make it to the beginning of 2021, and then they are going to run out of money. So now they're going to start trying to rent out their theaters for about $99. So you could see an older movie for $99, and if you want to go see Tenet, it'll cost you about $150, that or the New Mutants, and they're renting their theaters out for up to 20 people. Would you do that?
To be honest, I'll be honest and say I don't know. I don't know if I would. Because 20 people would be the people that I know, and I'd be the type of person, I'd be coming early and make sure I'll be wiping stuff down too. But but you know, it'd be interesting, but right now how it's going and the decisions that are being made about COVID
and the spikes,
right now, if someone was to ask me like, oh, you know, like I'm renting a theater out, like you want to come next weekend, we're gonna go watch, I'll be like, I'm so sorry, like I love you, but I'm not coming. But next year, as it gets later in the year, because you know my birthday's in May, you can ask me again and I'll see about that. But for right now, yeah, you're not getting me there.
Yeah, I think that, you know, and I actually think this would be a good idea for them to continue once the world we rediscover our new normal after Rona.
Yeah.
Because the theaters are having so many problems. I think that would be a great way to kind of get people back into the theaters. And of course, you know, if you're going to watch a movie in those newer releases, I would love to rent one out for my friends and just say, hey, everybody chip in and let's go rent a movie, a small theater for all of us, and we don't have to deal with all the other people. You know, someone like me.
Yes. I would love that, because we already like going to the theater when it's literally nobody there. So that would be perfect.
Yeah. Okay, well, and that brings us to this week in the K-pops. We also need we need something for that too. I'm gonna come up with a sound effect.
We need some kind of sound for that, right? When K-pop news is coming up.
Yeah, like pop. This is K-pops.
Yes. I agree. We gotta think about that. Okay, so in the K-pop news, I'm gonna start off with my second favorite K-pop group, and that is GOT7. All right,
JD.
So GOT7, yeah.
My bad. Go ahead.
So GOT7 has JYP, which is their entertainment company, has finally announced that they're going to have a comeback, but we don't actually have an actual date. They just said that they're going to have a comeback in November. We don't know when in November, but all of the members have returned to South Korea. So we do know that it's actually coming, that they're actually working on their CD because they've returned from going home, and that's for like Bam Bam Jackson and Mark, who are the foreign members of GOT7. All right, so I'm really excited about that. I'll be bringing some more news when we actually get a date from JYP. All right. Then we have Blackpink is going to be on Jimmy Kimmel on October 20th, and then Good Morning America on October 21st. So they're really promoting the album, which is still a stupid name, but
it
more
is.
power to them.
It is.
Stupid name. But I mean, you know, but they still are like the biggest girl K-pop group in the world. So, you know, gotta definitely put them out there. Super M is going to be on James Corden on October 23rd. James Corden needs to stop cheating on BTS. I'm gonna just put that out there real quick.
you know he loves his son, Baby Mochi, and he is not cheating on BTS. He's just like, yo. You know, he probably feels the same way. Like, whoa, what can I do? Fallon gave them a whole week. Okay, Super M, come on.
Yeah, you know. Let me show them who their loyalty should lie with, right?
But you know, so to compete with Fallon, he's gonna have to give him 2 weeks.
Oh, definitely. Okay, like full on, he gonna have them do the actual show for him.
Yeah, like fuck it, y'all can just host for the whole month. What you want to do?
I'm gonna take a break.
Yeah, like y'all can just host for November. Your album's coming out at the end of October, so just host. We're good.
One of my favorite, I want to say it would be more like R&B, like Korean R&B, artist Crush. He is actually coming out with a mini album where he's collaborating with 5 female artists. And I've already heard a snippet of 2 of the songs, and I am really, really excited. It comes out on Tuesday. It's called With Her, and it's so good.
I'm excited too. Like, my wheelhouse. I didn't go down the straight K-pop rabbit hole. I kind of veered out. I have a couple of groups. G7 is one of my favorites, and Blackpink. But there's some other actual K-pop groups I like. I went down the K R&B and hip hop rabbit hole, and that is where I live, and I love it. And you should definitely check out Crush, because no pun intended, but he crushes it. Like, he goes, I love Crush. He
can. Oh my gosh, he's so good. He's so good. So definitely keep open for that. And then now let's get on to the BTS, which have been in the news a lot. They've been in the news a lot. There's a lot of stuff to cover. So one thing is that Big Hit had their IPO on, was it Tuesday, Eddie?
I believe it was.
Okay, so they had their IPO on Tuesday, and I'm just going to say this. BTS, all 7 members, individually made $10 million in 30 minutes when the IPO went public. All right, for Big Hit, which is their entertainment company, for anyone who still does not know. So that was like crazy. They've become some of the richest K-pop stars in South Korea, which is crazy that they weren't before, but it is 7 members. I got to split the money. But now they are some of the richest K-pop stars in South Korea. So that was really, really exciting. Another thing is that one of the goals for BTS is to perform on the Grammys themselves, to be nominated for a Grammy, and to win a Grammy. So they have announced the songs in the CD that they have put for submission to get nominated for a Grammy. Their Map of the Soul 7 has been submitted for Album of the Year and Best Pop Vocal Album of the Year. Definitely excited. And Dynamite, their first all-English single, has been submitted for Record Song of the Year, Best Music Video, and Best Performance by a Pop or Group. All right. So definitely excited. I hope they really get nominated, because they so deserve it. They
do. Dynamite, I don't know about for Album of the Year. There have been some amazing albums released through COVID, and but I think Dynamite would really, really, really stands a chance as Song of the Year. Like, that song, it did what it was supposed to do. It lifted all our spirits. I love it. So even though I kind of have a little bit of a Dynamite hangover right now, but I think that would probably be their best bet, is to win one with Dynamite.
Yeah, but they can't do that without actually submitting their CD. But yeah, so I'm excited to see when the nominations come out. So definitely keep open for that. And then from there, the biggest news of the week is that BTS is still going for their world domination, and they are number 1 and number 2 on the Billboard charts. If you have not heard Savage Love yet with Jungkook, Sugar, and J-Hope, I'm gonna need you to get on Spotify and listen to that song, please, because it is amazing. All my friends who do not listen to K-pop was just like, yo, this song is good. Like, okay. I said, exactly. I'm slowly getting you to become a BTS fan. Just keep it coming. Keep it coming.
That is true. So yeah. And that does it for the wind down this week. Stay tuned, and when we come back, we will be discussing Netflix's hit, Emily in Paris. This week, we'll be discussing Emily in Paris. Stars Lily Collins as Emily, an American woman who gets an unexpected job opportunity in Paris. But once she gets there, she finds that the city and the people may not be quite as she romanticized them. Tammy, what did you think of Emily in Paris?
enjoyed it. It got better with the later episodes than what it was in the beginning. Because I did talk to you like after the third episode, and I was just like, I don't know if this is really gonna be my thing. But it did get better towards the end. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for what it was. Okay, for what it was. Like, it was nothing really serious. It was very stereotypical. There was a lot of stereotypes of French people.
So many
stereotypes, unrealistic like scenes and events that happened, and I was just like, oh please, like, give me a break. That is not how it would have went down. But overall, if I just look at the surface and I just enjoyed it for what it was given, I was entertained. I was entertained. I thought it was cutesy. As long as I shut my brain off of like thinking too deep into the scene. I couldn't think deep at all. Like, I couldn't think of anything. I had to shut my brain completely off to enjoy the show.
Well, it wasn't, and that's what it was. It was escapist television. It wasn't supposed to be this whole thing. It's not a thesis on life in Paris as an American woman. Definitely not. But what turned me off initially is I tried to stay away. And, you know, when we do a show, if I haven't seen it, I'll try to stay away from reviews online. And one of the headlines that caught me is that they compared it to Sex in the City. I guess basically because it was written and created by Darren Star, who also did Sex in the City. And I saw some of those comparisons, especially with the horrible fashion. She had a few cute outfits. Like, I did love the yellow dress. I loved the gingham short set that she wore, but the fashion was atrocious, like so bad.
And
I understand why Sylvie was always dragging on her clothes. Now, that was not stereotypical. That was just taste. Her fashion sense was horrible. It wasn't even Paris or couture chic. But yeah, so.
But at the same time, like, I saw the comparison of Sex and the City, and I agreed, because she was kind of supposed to be the Carrie Bradshaw of it all on her fashion, because Carrie, she wore some ugly shit on Sex and the City. Okay, she wore some real ugly shit on Sex and the City. So it was kind of the same deal, right? Because Darren Star, he does it for all of his shows. He tamed it down a little bit more when for Younger, his other show Younger. But for Sex and the City and Emily in Paris, I did get the same feel. Like, she was supposed to be the Carrie Bradshaw in Paris, like the younger, early 20s kind of feel about it. It just wasn't. Sex and the City was one of my favorite shows when it was on HBO, and it wasn't surface. Like, there were actually some things that you'd be like, you could just sit down and talk to your girlfriends about it and be like, yes, like, woo, did you see that scene with but with this one, no, there's nothing to talk. There's like nothing like I would have a deep conversation with my girlfriends about anything that happened in it. Oh wait, except for Gabrielle. But other than that, no.
Well, yeah, and I mean, and that was the thing. Like I said earlier, I like to kind of distinguish different shows, and I did get some of the comparisons from the fashion. She wasn't nearly as narcissistic as Carrie. Like, Sex and the City was great 20 years ago when it was in its prime, but that is one show. That's one show that does not carry over well. Like, it does not.
No.
So, I liked. But I did like it, and like you said, it got better. One of my favorite scenes, though, and you're gonna know when I really knew I liked this show, like when I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch it to the end, and it did get better, was at the end of the first episode when she caused a power outage in her neighborhood. And
I was like, wait, did she really just do that?
So that was with the vibrator, yeah. So you knew I was all in from there. I was like, oh yeah, this is my shit. Like, I can do this. But it was cutesy, like I said, and I appreciate the fact that it was a little escapist and it didn't give too much deep thought to it. Even having said that, the stereotypes did drive me crazy. I hated the way that Sylvie was stereotyped. I hated it. I understand Sylvie not liking her for certain reasons, but just to make it seem like because she was younger, she was American and all of that, or making it seem like Sylvie was old and ancient because she wasn't crazy about social media. Like those stereotypes, those drove me crazy. I did not like that.
But they kind of made it seem like it was a French thing, right? On the French just don't do social media like that. I'm just like, bullshit.
Yeah,
your younger generation is as much into social media as our generation is, and I can understand Sylvia being from an older crowd, so she may not know social media like that, and that's the reason why Emily came in. But at the same time, like, she had her talent, and I felt like her talent was kind of diminished in order to show Emily's talent of social media so much that it made it seem like, why was Sylvia in a position that she was in? I didn't
get that from it, but I can, I never thought of it from that perspective. So I understand where you're coming from with that. I just took it to be like, oh, she didn't like her because she was American, and and the whole thing, the whole thing about her not speaking French, I get it, but at least she did take classes and she was learning, because she never expected to come to Paris. The job wasn't hers from the very beginning. She actually was filling in from someone who mastered in French, majored in French, spoke French better than the French, in a sense. So that's why she didn't know French when she went there.
Yeah, but she took how many classes and she still didn't know anything? She still couldn't speak French at all.
It's harder to learn a language as an adult. As someone who's been trying to learn Spanish for years, I can attest to that. So,
well, yeah, but that means that you need to be fully engrossed in the language, right? Like fully engrossed.
But she was learning, because at one point Camille tells her, your French is getting so much better. So it's not like she was going to learn it overnight.
Camille telling her that and her actually being able to show it was two different things. Like, I get that we're supposed to believe that her French is getting better because a French person tells her that her French is getting better, but still didn't really hear her speaking French. So how much better
but she's
was
not
it?
Okay, I'm going to take it back to our favorite group, BTS. You're not going to learn English overnight. They're not going to learn it overnight. They practice it. She's not going to learn French overnight, even by living in France. So I get it. I give her credit for still going over there and just taking the classes and trying to learn how to speak the language. What did you think? Another one of my favorite episodes, let's go here, was with the professor, when she hooked up with the professor. He was such an ass.
Yeah, she was very naive, and okay, this shows sorry, I'm thinking about it, and my thought process when I was watching it was, oh hell no. I'm the type of person, of course my personality is that I'm gonna be looking at you the same way, like, dude, shut up. What are you talking about? But yeah, I didn't like him. He was an absolute snob. He was like a Mitch. Is that still a thing? He was a Mitch.
Yeah. I didn't like him either, but sometimes the amazing sex in it, and it had been, we're supposed to believe it's been a few months, so I think she was just going for the mind-blowing sex, and then she realized that after the ballet that he really, really was a snob. But he was honest about certain things, like he called her out on her relationship with Gabrielle, about him being jealous that they were together, and that was funny because she heard Gabrielle and Camille, and she's like, they always doing it. They do it all night. And then when it turns around, when he hears her and the professor, he does the same thing she did. He just puts the pillow over her head.
And goes to sleep. He's like, fuck this shit.
And goes to And I had no idea that her new French bestie was Gab. I did not see that coming. I thought her new French bestie was actually hitting on her and was going to try to put herself in the love interest mix.
I think they did a fake out on us with that whole scene on
I had no
hitting on her,
idea.
and then to find out that she was the girlfriend, I'm just like, oh shoot, okay, it's getting more interesting. Very contrived, but very interesting.
Yeah, and I like the way that they, it's like she tried to make her frenemy, but it just didn't work out that way. Like they actually ended up becoming friends, and even though it was, I still I'm in love with your boyfriend type thing, but she tried not to be.
She really did. Like she tried to be friends. And it's kind of like him trying to be friends, and he just realized, like, look, I'm attracted to you, you're attracted to me. So, like, how are we going to do this? And then every single time that she tried to, like, move on and, like, do her own thing, the embarrassment of her sleeping with Camille's 17-year-old brother.
I died. That... Like, I really thought he was the older brother too. No one ever said anything. And he acted like he was so mature because he knew the wine industry and he knew everything about the chateau and the wines and he was just so smooth with it.
He was so smooth for a 17-year-old, and then you find out that he's underage.
The only thing that got me though was like the only time I questioned maybe how old he was when I saw the hickeys, and I'm like, damn, it must have been that good that he, because as adults, we're past the hickey stage. Although sometimes, you get carried away and it's like, oh shit, I got a hickey, and but
oh my goodness,
yeah,
it was I was 17. I like that was one of the best. And then when the mom pulls her into the office to ask, okay, so was he good? Because that was always my worry, is that he's bad at sex. So please tell me that he's good at sex.
And then she was like, when she said, oh, well, at least my husband passed on something useful. He is a great lover, but he's not good for much else. And I'm like,
he's a waste for everything else.
Holy. And I was just like, okay. So you're not calling her in here to go off for having sex with your 17-year-old son, which in her defense, she was absolutely correct when she said she didn't know because no one told her.
Because Camille only talked about the one brother. She didn't mention the fact that she had more than one brother.
Yeah, two. Yeah. And even at dinner, no one said, oh, so you've met, or they didn't have that type of conversation where it's just like, this is my brother and this is what, it was just, hey. So in her defense, no one knew, but the mom didn't call her in there to go off about practically, deflowering her 17-year-old son.
She's like, pat her on the back and say, good job.
Thank you. She was like, oh, so as a grown woman, you're not one of those high school kids or college kids, because there it's college and then university. You're not one of those college or high school kids that he's been messing with. You're a full grown woman. So what was my son like in bed? And I'm just like, really? I would have been so embarrassed. And then when her mom, after they have that conversation, her mom was like, well, I can call you a car to take you to the train station because I imagine you want to go back home.
Let's talk business now.
Yeah. Emily's like, okay, now that I've embarrassed myself and you avoided me all weekend, let's talk business. But Emily, to say that she was like the social media, she was really good at her job. I have to give her that. She was good at her job. She knew. So I can give her credit.
I feel like it was too easy. It was too easy on how easily like she was able to like solve every issue possible. And this was someone who, before she actually started at the company, she sold prescription drugs. Like she sold prescription drugs. She goes to not Italy. She goes to Paris, and then all of a sudden, like, she's an absolute pro at selling luxury items. Come on now. Like, I mean, I loved how great she looked in the show on doing her job, but that's another stereotype and another too easy to believe kind of moment of the whole show and the character.
Okay, well, see, there you go, overthinking it. Well, this is not that type of show. We're not overthinking those things.
You're right.
Yes, that was my first. That was my first thought too. But this is not a deep dive analysis. Okay. Again, this was not a thesis of what it is actually like for an American woman living in Paris. It's not a docudrama. It's not a docu-series.
No, but even
so
okay, but even if we think surface, like I'm not even trying to like go deep with it, but just the fact of her going from selling prescription drugs to all of a sudden being a pro at selling luxury items and then becoming like an absolute like influencer in a short time. I was
she always had that ability because she was the one. I don't know the character's name in the movie, so we'll just call her the person whose job that she took or she replaced her boss. She was going to take, her boss was in charge of the luxury brand. She always went and helped out her boss. Prescription drugs was just her main account, but she knew how to do the other stuff. And that's why they sent her to Paris. Obviously, they sent her because she was good at her job. She wasn't just like some second assistant who happened to who they're going to send to Paris to help run their new acquisition and take over social media accounts for them. That's ridiculous. So you have to have an idea that she was good at her job in America. Now, did the problems come where they solved it a little too quickly? Yeah, but it's 30-minute television. And, there wasn't a lot of carryover until you got to the couture side, which was really funny when they were dealing with Pierre Cardin. So I'm not going to say she was trash at her job in America and then all of a sudden became great at her job. She was an overachiever. She worked hard. She studied all that stuff. She researched it. She was a workaholic by Parisian standards. I think even by American standards, she would have been a workaholic. But
no, America is all about work.
So
that's all we do.
But the last 3 episodes were based on Pierre Cardin, or I'm calling him Pierre Cardin, but no. That's their actual designer, but this guy who was, I guess, supposed to be like a Pierre Cardin, but Pierre Gardot, was the designer's name in the show. But when Grace Space dogged him like he did, and he went, he spiraled, then that's when you kind of got to see that, okay, she couldn't solve a problem overnight, which I really thought were some of the better episodes in the show. And I love his nephew. I do. I like them together. Her and Matthew or Matt.
Yeah, they had chemistry. They definitely had chemistry. And I like the fact that like he didn't force himself on her like some of the other men that she got with did. Like not force themselves on her, but it was kind of like he flirted with her a little bit, and it was more natural on them falling for each other. Like it was a natural progression of them getting to know each other and realizing they're attracted to each other, and then kind of seeing where it goes with the dating. All right, and I did like that progression on. It wasn't just automatic like, oh, I'm gonna sleep with you. Ooh, this. It was like, oh, we're flirting a little bit. I think you're cute. You think I'm cute. So, like we should do something together kind of thing. And I did like that progression of their relationship.
Yeah. Now, one thing I did have a problem with was the sex, and not that she had too much, but the whole conversation and the stereotypes. On one hand, they say Americans are so that we over-sexualize everything. Okay. And then on the other hand, they were saying that we were too prude, like the naked commercial. And she was like, yeah, that's way too much. And then they were like, oh, you're so prude as an American. And then when she was talking about the Me Too movement, they were making fun of her when she was saying those things. Like, and I want to say, that kind of upset me. I'm like, are you saying that French women never experience sexual harassment and that they take all of this just in stride as part of being French?
I will say that, and I wrote that down on, she dropped she didn't know how to have the conversation about the Me Too movement and what she was trying to say. She just gave up very easily. Like it's kind of like she didn't know how to get her words together to prove her point. So she just kind of we were like, oh, you see where it coming? She's just like, well, yeah, I mean, it's not going to really resonate with America and women, but yeah. And I was just like, oh, you just
that's the thing. Okay. No, but that's the thing. Every time she did bring it up, like, okay, workplace romances or something like that, it was always, oh, well, we're French. Like every issue that came down to it was like, we're French. To me, that was a stereotype, if she wanted to talk about Me Too, oh, you can't say that because we're French. Or yes, we're going to have naked women walking around TV because we're French. So it's like, okay, are we the prude Americans or are we the over sexualized Americans? Like, where do we fall
Well,
into this?
we okay, so America is very hypocritical. It's a very hypocritical culture. um for my friend who's from Spain, like she says that like they'll have like actual naked people, fully naked people on the TV, and then with us it's kind of like, oh, like that's too racy, but you still gotta sexualize everybody. But oh, that's too racy. Like, oh, that she just showing a little too much, a little too much. And so I kind of got where they were coming from when they were saying like, oh, you're too prudish, but at the same time have a lot of sex. Do this, do that. But you're still too prudish because you don't want a naked woman walking down the street. Which, at the same time, I understood where she was coming from when she was talking about why that didn't work, because it was the male gaze. But I don't think she knew how to, or that conversation was kind of very surface based. Like it wasn't. She didn't know what to say. She didn't know how to get her point across with it. So I'm just like, y'all should just took that whole conversation out, because it just did not come off as her knowing what she was talking about at all. She didn't know what she was talking about.
Yeah, that whole thing, I think they dropped the ball on all of that. So
Yeah.
hopefully they will do a better job in addressing that in a less stereotypical fashion. Like I don't even blame her per se as the character. I blame the writers. Like, so that's one thing I hope if it does come back, is that it is less stereotypical in a lot of ways, and it deals with some weightier issues. You can still find a comedic way to deal with some of the heavier issues. So what did you think about the person who's obviously going to be in game, and that's Gabrielle? What did you think about their relationship? I'll leave it at that.
Yes, Gabrielle. I loved him. I thought he was sweet. He was nice. He was so cute. And not just like his looks, because I mean, yeah, but like he was cute on his feelings sneaking up on him. Like if he didn't have a girlfriend, like I felt like the girlfriend was the foil that they put in there to kind of push them through the whole 10 episodes without getting together. But I liked how you saw him slowly falling for her, but at the same time he was still faithful to his girlfriend, right? Like majority of the time, like he was still faithful to his girlfriend. You know, he still really liked her. They were still dating. Like it wasn't like he started arguments with his girlfriend all of a sudden after he started liking Emily, right? So I did like the slow progression of their relationship, and their chemistry was great as well. Like Matthew and him, like I could see them, triangle. I could see the love triangle going on for the second season. Try to figure out who she's gonna be with,
Yeah, we saw it in the restaurant the last night when she thought he was leaving because he got his own restaurant.
Like, should I stay? Should I go?
And in the restaurant, like Matthew was just looking at her after he'd invited her to a romantic getaway in Saint Tropez. And then she was like, yeah, that's going to be so much fun. And then her and Gabrielle just sharing these longing looks. And I'm like, third party much, Matt? Like that's what, and you saw that he kind of sensed it just the way he just kind of glanced down and over to the side, like, okay, this is getting hella uncomfortable. But they did hook up because they thought it was their last night. And him and Cammie had already broken up. Because he was moving and all of that. And I loved how she said it, like he was fully prepared to just give them, he's like, it's Normandy. It's not like it's that far away. We could still see each other. And she's like, no, we can't, because, we would just hurt someone that we both really care about. She was like, this was our one perfect moment. So, and that just tells you that if she knew what she was going to find out the next day or the next couple of days, that night would have never happened.
Well, I knew it was coming. So okay, I haven't said this yet, but I loved Antoine. I loved Antoine with Sylvie. I know he was married. I get it, but I actually like their relationship because I think that he really, really did love Sylvie, and I like the the relationship that they had, right? Once it actually they started to show us scenes with them, but I knew it.
Besides her just being his mistress.
Yeah. Like it wasn't just she being his mistress, because when his wife showed up and ruined the surprise that he had for Sylvie, and then she thinking that it was her surprise, and the whole time he was looking at Sylvie and seeing her reaction, and he reacted to her. Like he kind of ignored his wife. Like he wasn't even really focused on his wife at all. Like his wife is talking and he's just like, okay, she's just there. But he was focused on Sylvie, seeing how much she was hurt over the fact that he now had to take his wife on the trip that she was supposed to go on. But at the last night when they were eating, I knew, like Antoine was looking, and then when he was told that it was his last night and that he was going to Normandy because he couldn't afford the restaurant, I was just like, oh, he about to invest in your restaurant for you, boo. Like you about to get that whole restaurant that you currently work in together. So that made me really, really excited, because I think Antoine is gonna end up being a good friend. Like I can see him being a good friend of hers, and someone who like supports her, who just happens to also be a sexy French man, but someone who actually supports her and kind of opens up her mind to not being so prudish, as they call it, and I say that with quotation marks, being as prudish as they call, and to kind of open up her mind to adventure. Because I feel like until like he kind of talked her in, like he was talking to her, she didn't open up to actually enjoying the fact that she was in Paris and she was now single, and like, girl, go have your fun. Go get yours.
Yeah, and even though the underwear was truly inappropriate,
so inappropriate.
It was La Perla is hella expensive, but hella beautiful. I would hope to own a couple pieces of La Perla myself one day, but you know, that's a different show, different story.
That's an actual brand?
Yes, it is.
Woo. Okay, I'm not as bougie as I thought I was. My bad.
But I did like what he said to her. He was saying that, hey, it wasn't for me. It wasn't about me. I sent it to you. You as a woman should always want to feel sexy. I felt that. I'm like, yeah, still hella inappropriate, but I get it. You know, so with him, it's like you never know when he's flirting, but you did see that, hey, he probably would sleep with Emily if given a chance, because that's just who he is. But you also get that he really loves Sylvie. And yeah. I realized how fucked up all of that truly sounded when I was saying it. But again, it's a TV show, so gotta take it for what it is.
Yeah, but you could tell, like even when Sylvie was mad at him and she refused to talk to him, and like he comes to some meeting and he sits and he's just like, so when are we gonna talk? And she's just like, we're talking now, and his face was just like, no, you know that's not what I mean. Like can we really like he was kind of like, I'm on the verge of begging you to speak to me, like come on, you know. So that's like, even though I know it was the mistress and the husband, but I did really like their relationship as well.
But you also kind of got a sense of Antoine stepping in because he didn't want Gabrielle to make the same mistakes he made. Like, first of all, you kind of get a better understanding when he explains that night when he finds out Gabrielle was leaving. He was like, he understood why he didn't take the girlfriend's family's money to open a restaurant.
Because he did it himself.
He did it himself, and you kind of have a sense that he regrets that, because now you get the feeling that he's stuck with his wife. Like, he cares about her, but he's more obligated to her in their marriage than it is love. And then a question was finally answered when his wife talked to Emily, and you found out that Emily was taking over his account. She was like, oh, I think you're better suited. So she knew her quote unquote best friend had been banging her husband. And that was something that Emily had asked earlier, like, does she know? Did she condone it?
And she approved of it. Like, yeah.
Yeah, and so then she was like, but you know, you're a much better fit in every way. So basically she was giving Emily the go-ahead to sleep with.
But do you think that the reason why is because she realized that her husband is in love with Sylvie? And that's the reason why she's now wanting to kind of pass him off to Emily? It's not that she thinks that Emily is a better fit for her husband, but the fact is saying that she knows her husband is in love with Sylvie and she wants to separate them.
I think so. And I think So I asked myself this when that scene happened: is did she know? Did she really know that wasn't her trip? And
She
I think
did.
she
She
knew.
did. She knew it wasn't her trip, and she took and that's the reason why she also did it in front of her.
That is
She
Sylvie.
she threw it in her face that I'm gonna
Yeah.
take this trip with my husband, and you will not get this trip. And that goes back to her knowing for a long time then, and it goes to, were they honest enough? Did Antoine tell her about his feelings for Sylvie, or is it that she was seeing it on her own and she wanted to stop it before it became too serious?
I think she was seeing it on her own, because you remember at one point, Luke and Julian, who I love, we haven't really talked about them. Luke and Julian, who I love, they actually said that Sylvie and the wife were really, really good friends. So I don't know how good of friends you can be when you're sleeping with your friend's husband, but okay, we'll let that go. The French, they do things differently. So overall, how would you rate this season? And do you think a sequel is warranted, or a second season is warranted? Excuse me.
Okay, so first I will say that a second season, I'm down for a second season. And the reason why is because, okay, it kind of took a minute for me to fully get into the show, right? But then when the 10th episode happened and it ended the way it did, I was like, where's the next one? Wait, that's it? Like, I literally said that in my living room. Like, I was just like, wait, hold up. Like, that's how they gonna end it? Like, they just gonna do me like that? So I am excited to see what happens now that she knows that Gabrielle is staying in Paris rather than returning to Normandy like she thought he was going to after they slept together.
And will he and Camille get back together?
Yeah. And but I did rate it. I gave it a promising rating. It's gonna sound like I didn't, but I did. I gave it a 2.75 popcorns, and because it did take me a minute to really get into it, but there's so much promise to it, right? As long as I completely shut my brain off as I'm watching it, there is so much promise to this show that it can be a guilty pleasure for me. That's the type of show that it can end up being. It can be a guilty pleasure for me, where I'm excited for the next season, just to be able to just watch and be entertained completely. So 2.75 popcorns is what I'm giving it, and that is actually promising. That is really, really good. But what about you, Eddie?
I love all the disclaimers that came with that rating. Loved it. I gave it 3.5 stars.
Ooh.
Because I do think a second season is warranted. I look forward to a second season. Netflix, they're notoriously slow on renewing something, so we'll see. In these Rona times, so if we did get a second season, probably won't be coming out to 2022, but
probably.
So 3.5 stars is where I land on this. Again, there's some things that we talked about, the believability factor, some things, and there's always room for improvement. But if you take the show for what it is, it's just a fun summer, turn your brain off. Don't have to think about Rona for 2.5 hours or however long, or 5 hours if you just binge it all the way through, type of show. So I appreciate that, especially with all the fall shows coming back, and they're going to be tackling that. So it's kind of good to have a show that just isn't about that. It shows us what life used to be when we could go out and
have fun
in restaurants and travel and hang out with our friends. And I miss those days. It's hard to believe it's only 8 months and not 10 years ago. But so 3.5 stars. And well, that does it for this episode of the Popcorn Wind Down. Thank you for joining us, and be sure to tune in next week when we will be reviewing The Witches. Until then, I'm Eddie.
And I'm Tammy. Bye!